All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Wednesday, February 11th, 11 a.m. update and training call for the Velocity Bank Network. All right, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to give some updates, and then, of course, we'll open it up to Q&A. But more than anything, what I want to do is really kind of dive into how the first 3 days, three cycles, I should say, have kind of worked its way through some of the things that I think still need a little bit of tweaking, which is information that I'll go over today. But in terms of logic, all the things that are most important, that is working exactly the way it should. And it is pretty straightforward. But I'm also going to talk a little bit about. I had a bunch of people hit me up last night. They want to understand the velocity or the boost bonus that we added, the booster bonus that we added for direct referrals. So I'll go over that as well, whether you're watching here on the replay or whether you are here on the live call. All right, so let's start with a couple people been waiting on some information from Bankus. Again, I got half information on some of the things that people have been asking about. I think it's half information. They're still just not getting a straight answer as to being able to look up. What I'm trying to do is take people's emails and look up whether or not your card has been shipped out if you fall in that window. So as of about an hour ago, I did not get an update on that, but I have several of people's emails that people had sent me and their names, and I will keep on that as the week goes on. Um, in terms of they've got a bunch of new things that they're starting to bring into the market, so uh, they're really kind of working through a bunch of things while they're building them out. But their Tuesday, Thursday calls are a good place where you can go and get additional information if you're looking for more information on, the portal and some of the things that they're working on. The one thing I will caution everybody is from everything I've seen up to this point, it's still about 90% in Spanish. So if you are expecting to go into some of these things and you see that it's still in Spanish, they're still working through that because my understanding is 80% of the current 65,000 members is in the Spanish language still. So that's why that still seems to be preferenced as the main thing with different tools and things that they're coming out with. But as we get more of that stuff that is in English, we will continue to let you know. But again, you can at any time visit their Tuesday, Thursday meetings, and then on Wednesday they always do that operational call, and that's a good place to get more questions answered with the liaison that they have that's from the field, and he works directly with all operational issues. So that's always a good one for you to do. So let's now kind of dive into where we're at. We're going to start with the announcement. So we were able to kind of worked through from about 6:30 this morning till about 10:17, pretty much making sure that everything was as it should be on the logic side. And as I said when I started the call, everything logic wise is working perfectly on the what we'll call processing time. So what I want everybody to kind of get your mind on when you're thinking about everything that happens really happens between like 8:59 a.m. and Hopefully, we get it down to where it's doing it over a couple minute period. So what ends up happening is the system temporarily locks down so that it can do each of the things that it needs to do from that cycle that went from 9 o'clock the day before until that, until 8:59. And because we're still adjusting things with the portals, meaning what you see will see in your back office, that is definitely one of the things that is affecting what you will see at 9 o'clock or 9:05 or whatever that window ends up being. We're hoping that we get it to where it is from 8:59 to 9 and everything happens automatically with the AI. But right now, that's what's happening. So today we went right through till about 10:17 or so, and pretty much we're going back and forth with a couple of things from the user experience, right? But also from the user experience when we go fully decentralized again, as we have with the other site that we have up. So we're kind of doing two at the same time, just so that we can see how things look both ways, so that we know, so we're not having to go through this again when we transition everybody over to the decentralized once that's all built out down the road. So in terms of that, I think there's a few things that are important when that happens. So the progress, everybody wants to see the progress of where they're at, whether you're in the velocity line, whether you're in the feeder line, you want to see the progress. You want to say, oh, okay, today X amount of people moved from here to here, so you kind of see where you're going each and every day. So that's one of the things we were working heavily on this morning with the flip over. So that's why we flipped over a little bit early manually, so we could kind of see what that looked like. Still a bunch of things that need to be done, and we'll be working on those as the day goes on. Just feeding it to the AI agent, and then it basically feeds it back to us, and we go back and forth all day long. Um, but that process will continue to happen till we get it where everybody, all the suggestions that we got from people last week, and then what we see from the admin side, we want that to be visible, because what that will do is that'll be less questions going to customer service. Rena and Paula do a great job, but some days they get really bogged down with the number of tickets that come through. But again, that's the reason why we have the ticket system there, is so that questions can be answered, because not everybody can be on this call. And a lot of times when you see the replay, we don't do the Q&A on the replay. And that's just because that information changes so quickly and you never know what questions are being asked. I'm sticking with the way that we've always done it, even though some people have asked if we change that. Um, so so in the process of what we saw this morning, right? So I think our number ended up at 16,000 today. That would be the payout, and in terms of that would mean that there were, because remember, it's always going to be two, right? When that cycle happens, 1,000 for the reentry and then 1,000 that goes to either the reward itself, to the Bankus email, or to the one of the pools, whether it's the sustainability pool or the boost bonus pool. So that was all, no issues with that at all. The decimal points were proper, like they should be. So everything on that side. Now it's just a matter of now having it where everything connects so that everybody sees the visual that you want to see, so that you kind of have an idea of, well, I'm working my way, whether I'm in the feeder or whether I'm in the velocity line, to getting into the chain where I then have those predictable rewards coming each and every day. So I wrote some questions down that some people asked. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of walk through these questions. Um, rather than doing a half presentation that would not be the totally updated information because you're going to see the full when the site gets updated and the presentation. There's a lot of terminology that we've changed. So I'm going to go by these questions right now, and then we'll see where we're at by tomorrow at 11 a.m. If we feel like it's ready to go to the market, we will put it out to the market. So the big question that I was getting from a bunch of people was exactly how the processing works, right? So I think it's important for you to understand that processing is multiple things that are happening at that 8:59 a.m., right? So what it's first and foremost looking at, it's looking at all the activity that happened from, in this case, tomorrow. It'll be from 10:17 this morning because we were basically shut down from 7:30 this morning to 10:17. So it'll look from 10:17 to see first and foremost, um, did any new people come into the feeder line? Did any new people come into the velocity line direct? And then from there, the second thing it's going to do is it's then going to look and say, okay, we now know we have this. Now, the second thing that we have to look at each and every day is, okay, how many people how many nodes are in the chain, and what do those rewards look like in terms of where they're all going, where the routing of where they're going. So first, it looks at anything new that happened, so that those two activities don't get mixed up. Because remember, you're coming into the feeder line or you're coming into the velocity line. You're not going into the chain. The only way to get in the chain is from the velocity line. So now that second step happens, it looks at all the rewards that are need to be dispersed. And what's important is that everybody always gets two from the two below. So if there aren't two below, right, that means you're not active in the chain yet, right? So that is an important process that happens during processing. And I know it gets to in people's minds that gets a little bit, it's like, oh, wait a minute. I can send up, but I can't receive, right? So there's a mechanism in there that makes sure when you can send up, right? You can send up, right? But then on that next cycle, you have to be able to receive, right? Because if you can't receive on the next cycle, right, you won't be able to send up. So kind of think of it as the first time you go through, when you get moved into the chain, what's going to happen is you're going to be, boom, your status will get changed to active. You'll be an active node at that point. That $1,000 will go directly to that link that you are tied to. Remember, everybody sends up, right? So you'll that'll go there, and the logic will see all that happening, right? So all this happens in the background. I'm giving you detail because these are the questions people are asking, right? So here, here now, you know that, hey, on that first, when I first became active, I have 1,000 to take care of that, right? So I'm able to do that for that link above me. Now, what's going to happen is that's going to activate you so that you can now start receiving rewards from two that are linked from you behind you. So now when those two that are linked behind you send you two rewards, what does that mean? That means you have one that's good to recharge or reactivate you to do another cycle. And then the other one goes into one of those two spots, either directly to your wallet or to one of the sustainability pools. So, um, so when you're thinking about it in what's happening in the background, the first time, so just keep this in mind. When you first get in there, and this is how we make it so that you never ever go backwards. Remember that's a big question. I don't know how many people asked that yesterday, but it was once you are locked in, you never go backwards because those two that are going to get linked under you, the same thing's going to happen for them. Their first time they have that $1,000 that's sitting in reserve. They get that linking them to somebody, and then the next cycle, right? They're then in position to have those two rewards that come to them. Now, this is where I think it's important from what people were perceiving, right? Perceiving that, hey, it could take me 4 or 5 days once I'm in the chain before I actually start receiving rewards. But not true. You technically could wait in the velocity line. You won't be in the chain, right? For an extra day or two because the sustainability side says, hey, we can't add anything new right now, right? But in terms of once you're in the chain, so when you see in your back office that it says you are active, you know that that first $1,000 that you had sitting in reserve, that went to take care of that node for that cycle. And now on the next cycle, two things happen for you, right? Now, the people coming behind you, they will be sending you right away. Now, so this is an important piece. So if we move you today, let's say, right, and we sent that $1,000 up, right? Now, guys, I know this is getting into the weeds a little bit, but it's trying to make people understand why you never go backwards is what I'm trying to do here. It's that sitting in line, even though it may seem like, oh God, it's taking too long, but because that's where all the real math is happening. It's how many people are in line, how many can we move over on each day. So even though we might be in a position today to move you over, your 1,000 would take care of that link that you'd be right above you. But the problem would be the next day, there wouldn't be two people to send under you or two nodes to link to you for you to get that 1,000, which then in turn would break the links because you would have to put another 1,000 in to send that 1,000. So remember, because it's one big chain, we can never have a break anywhere in the chain. So hopefully that gives you a little bit more understanding of number one, why you sit in line first and foremost, but then number two, why when you're kind of, I'll use a baseball analogy, when you're on deck, it could take 1, 2, or 3 days based on how many people are in line for it to say, hey, we're ready for you to go in, get that next one up. And that, but that's how we keep it totally sustained. So we never ever have a link that somebody sits for more than one cycle because as soon as that happens, it breaks everybody's cycle because those $1,000 are not getting passed up. So it's super important to understand that even though you might not like sitting in line, that's the most important place that everybody can be right now is in the line because that's what's going to make the chain start to grow and then get stronger and stronger and stronger over time. So hopefully that really kind of dives in and answers that question because once we start doing regular presentation, I'm never going to get into those kind of weeds and details with people. It's hey, it all happens in the background. You don't have to do anything. Once you move from the velocity line, you move to the chain. But because there are a lot of people asking that question over the last couple of days, I thought I'd spend a little bit of time giving you that insight of what I have from being involved in all the logic of this, making this work, so that it is a predictable chain of events that happens on a daily basis based on our Monday to Friday 8:59 processing time. So now, next question that got some well, I guess a fair amount of people still don't understand how the two work, right? So I'm going to go into that and I'm going to kind of try to make it real simple for you. So once you're in the velocity line, does not matter who brought you in, doesn't matter if you came in with nobody, nothing matters. You're just in line. You're in what's called a reserve node spot because your funds are sitting in reserve so that as soon as you get in the chain, you can take that $1,000 and send it to the link above you, right? So, so once you're in that, you're time stamped based on that time that you got in. So like all the ones so far that have gone in have been people from the end of December. So I think it was actually I saw the first timestamp was actually December 21st. That was the first $1,000 payment that had come in. So in that time, all the ones that are going in the first since Saturday, we'll call it, have been people that actually made that $1,000. Back then, it was actually 1,060 if you didn't have a priority position, and we have a fair amount of people that had the 1,060 because they didn't have a priority position back then. But now we've changed things, so it's a little different now. So that timestamp, that is the important piece for where you're at in the velocity line. Now, if you do invite zero or one person, so if you invite zero, doesn't matter. You still get rewards. Nothing changes. You don't move any slower. You don't move any faster. You invite one, nothing matters. You don't move any faster. You don't move any slower. But you get the basic rewards when you get to the the velocity chain. Basic rewards means that you're going to get you're going to get your reward that's going to go to your Bankus wallet is your third and fourth in week one, third and fourth in week two. In week three, that fourth one becomes what was the 19th one in the way we had it logic before. That one there will now go to the protocol. And then in the fourth week, you will get your third and fourth, right? So that's how those rewards work for someone who is basic. And anytime you can invite two people to the velocity line, they go to the back, they get time stamped, and at that point, your status will change from basic to it will then be called boost. Now you're boost. Now, if you've got a boost, right, that means you're going to get three rewards. So you're going to get the second, third, and fourth. Second, third, and fourth in the first week, second, third, and fourth in the second week, second, third. You'll get the fourth will go to the protocol in the third week. And then the fourth week, you'll get second, third, and fourth. So that's the difference between base and um, boost. So does not matter. All that matters is that in your portal, you're going to have a status of either basic or for that node, that specific node, because you can have multiple nodes, and each time there's two people that you've invited, those will change the status of that node from base to boost. So, so the people that were asking that question. So when you bring the two people in does not matter, right? So you can bring them in right away. You can bring them in after you get in the chain. Once that happens, status changes, and then the reward routing will know automatically that, hey, you're getting two, three, and four instead of just three and four. Now, for those of you that are um, builders, right? We've added the builder, the boost builder. Now, the boost builder, people were asking a lot of questions yesterday, and I didn't have the full logic the way that it was going to be done. I didn't know if it was a pool, if it was going to be a pool, or was it going to be based on each invitee that you brought in. So after we did all the logic math last night and saw how we could make this work, it will be every week, right? Anybody who's in the feeder program. So let's say you're in the feeder program, you came in for $100, right? And you brought two people in or one person in, let's say one person, who didn't come in the feeder, but they wanted to go right to the velocity line. So what that will do, that will trigger you for one reward event on that once a week. Let's just say it'll be Mondays. Just I don't know the exact day that it's going to be up, but let's just say it's Mondays. So on Monday, you are in the feeder line. You had 100, but you had somebody that had 1100. They went right into the velocity line. Yes, they are ahead of you. But now you have qualified for a reward. You brought in two, you qualify for two rewards. You bring in three, you qualify for three rewards. Now, for anybody that's in the velocity line or the velocity chain, right? You start at number three. Okay. So, first two tie to whatever node you are part of, right? So your first two are going to say, "Hey, I'm either it's going to make me it's going to take me to the boost status." But then when you get to three, four, and beyond, it now changes your status. Or it adds an additional reward that will be paid out weekly because you brought in more than two, right? So it will create a behavior that we want to create. We want the builders to bring in more people. But at the same time, if you're in the feeder program or you're in the velocity line, you can now start receiving weekly rewards by doing one thing, helping grow the network, right? So, so the way that will work from a reward standpoint, each time if you're in the feeder, it's 500 each time. Each time you bring someone in, that following week, that accrues you a reward for $500 in USDT that goes right to your Bankus wallet. And there's nothing from this that goes back to the sustainability. It's 100% goes right. We don't need to add any more into the sustainability of this. This is the reason why we're using the 500 as the mark on that. Now, if you are in the feeder or in the chain, or if you're in the velocity line or the chain right now, right, you would be able to on that third one, right? It's not tied to any node yet, right? It's your third one. That gives you 500. Then your fourth one gives you another 500. Then your fifth one gives you another 500. Now, as you decide to add more nodes, right? Even though you've already received 500 for it, it also will still count as your third and your fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. So you're able to double dip. So we're rewarding you for bringing people in quicker, right? But we're also saying, hey, they can still count as long as So let's look at it right now. If you have two people that you invited right now, and tomorrow you invite your third person, that would qualify you for a $500 reward next week. Okay. So if you've got three nodes with your six people right now, it'll start at number seven. So we can't go backwards. We can only go forwards with this based on the way that we've laid it out. So that should give everybody a little bit more um, incentive to go out and help drive the velocity line faster because as I said earlier when I was giving that explanation on the processing time, it's all about how many people we have in that velocity line at any given time. The more people we have in that line that are waiting with that $1,000, the more people that are going to get into the chain each and every day. And you're either going to get the two or the three. And then for each uh, new direct that you bring in, you're also going to get that $500 in that weekly payout, which probably be on Mondays. We'll get that rectified. We'll know that by the end of the week once I look at how to make that work. Um, so those were two of the more pertinent questions that I've been getting that I wanted to kind of heavy detail on today because, like I said, once the logic or not the logic once you guys are in and you have your back offices you have the customer service to reach out for daily things that you need to do Monday to Friday. um, then at that point these 11 o'clock calls will be specifically a presentation on exactly what we're doing and how we're doing it. There's not a lot of like getting into the weeds that ever needs to be done. What needs to be done is for people to understand that, hey, I can either go through the feeder line, I can go through here, the velocity line directly. But if I wait my turn, when my turn comes, I'm going to get predictable rewards. I'm not counting on 1,000 people that I got to bring in. I'm not counting on getting a percentage of a product or a service that I'm selling. I'm in a decentralized world where I know once I'm linked in the chain, there's always two people that have a node that are linked to me, and those are always going to come up to me, and it's either going to go for me to recharge, re-enter, whatever works for you in terms of in your mind, and then the other one, the sustainability or directly to you. So that's the stuff that I wanted to hit on today. What I will do is I'll end today's training. I will put that in the group late, after our call today. But if anybody needs to go to one of the rooms, I preset those up earlier, so you can go in there and get any questions answered about any of your status or anything along those lines. And then I'll do a Q&A starting in just about 2 minutes. I just need to get some water.